Good evening, everyone. I am Fran Backstrand, and I'll be moderating for this evening. On behalf of myself and Joanne Sharp, who unfortunately is not able to be here this evening, we'd like to thank the candidates who are attending and all of you for coming out in support of them. The Northborough's vision is a municipal political action committee. Our stated purpose is to educate and inform the residents of the workings of the town with fact-based data and information, to encourage activism and involvement in local governance, including town boards, committees, town election, and town meeting, to create a business-friendly community, endorsing fiscal responsibility and preserving education. For the record, we are not, nor do we intend, to coordinate with any individual campaign or donate funds to any candidate during this election cycle. Our goal is to provide a platform where the facts are shared and discussed. Our hope is that we can return to civil discourse as we debate the means to achieve what we all want, which is a safe, healthy, and happy environment in which we live. So, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Okay, so without further ado, I do want to welcome the candidates. Unfortunately, I learned this afternoon that Ms. Howard, the candidate for the K-8 school committee, posted on Facebook that she was unable to attend this evening. We did not receive an email confirming this. However, since it is past 7 o'clock and she's not here, I'm going to assume she is not able to make it, and we will begin. So, as you can see, we've split the forum into two. First up will be the town moderator and the two school committee candidates. For each candidate, they will be given 3 minutes as an introduction. After the inductions, we'll start with the regional high school candidates, where we will alternate between the two, and then move on to the K-8. Mr. McKnight, you will still be given the 2 minutes to answer each question. Okay. And Karen is going to hold up a sign that when you're doing your 3-minute introduction, she'll show you when you have 2 minutes left, 1 minute, and when she puts it down, you can assume that means you should be wrapping up. All right. Okay. All right, now we'll try to stay on.
Do you have a cane to pull us off?
We will try to stay on time, but I am going to start with the candidate for town moderator, Mr. Fred George.
Thank you very much, and good evening to everyone. Thank you for coming out to see the candidates and the positions that we all have. My name is Fred George. I have been your town moderator for the past 18 years. I enjoy the process mainly because I believe it's the purest form of democracy that we have today. An opportunity for every registered voter to be able to have a say in a public forum that would have some influence on the outcome of the community. Why am I running? I'm running because I enjoy it. I love teaching people the process. Those that have moved to the town from outside of New England always say, what is a town meeting? And what's the difference between an open town meeting and a representative town meeting? And who the heck is a moderator? And I enjoy educating people and informing people as to what the process is. It's a process that I have been involved in since I became involved in the town committees and boards and commissions. And I started out as the member of the Personnel Board, served on that for 6 years, then moved to the Board of Selectmen, served on the Board of Selectmen for 7 years, and I have, as I said earlier, have been your town moderator for the past 18 years. I ask, when you go to the polls in May, that I'm asking you for your vote. And please consider my record, my attempt to be fair and just and equally balanced in all of our town meetings. With that being said, I say thank you once again for the time and the opportunity.
Thank you, Fred. Okay, next up we have Bryce McKnight.
Fred has got a booming voice. Can everybody hear me? Great for a moderator. My name is Bryce McKnight. My family and I have moved to Northborough in 2019, not long before the world seemed to shut down. So we have been actively engaged in our at least neighborhood community for the last 2.5 years. We found Northborough to be extremely welcoming. The school systems have been great for us so far. We've got a kindergartner and a preschooler who receive some services at the Finn School at the moment. And I'm running and asking for your consideration for vote in May because I've seen both the transformational and amazing impact that positive education outcomes can have on children. And I've also seen the overwhelming amount of pressure that they face to perform in the face of all of the testing and perceived outcomes that we as adults wish for them to see in their own adulthood. I believe that there's an opportunity for us to continue to explore what experiential learning opportunities look like, to see how the value of arts, language, and music can influence one's ability to be a critical thinker and still excel in STEM subjects. And I also am, somebody who is very much open to being of service. I've certainly got my value sets that I'll bring to the committee, but I'm an open ear and happy to be a participant in the success of our schools. So I ask you again, consider me for your vote in May, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bill. Oh, Bryce, sorry. All right, next up is Bill running for the regional high school.
Thank you very much, Fran. Appreciate it. So my name is Bill Redfern. On the ballot, it is William Redfern. I had to go with the name I'm registered under, not the name which I go by. So please remember that. But I'm a Massachusetts native, born and raised in Needham. I moved to Northborough in 2004 with my wife. We've been here 18 years, have 2 boys right now, a freshman at Algonquin and an 8th grader over at Milliken. And, we picked Northborough because we were looking for maybe not our forever home, but a place to settle down and raise a family, and we've loved it. We're excited to be here. We're excited for the next 18 years and the next stage in life. I work locally, an IT director over at Hologic. Before that, I spent about 20 years or so in finance and in consulting as well. I went to college at UNH, have an MBA from Northeastern, and that's kind of my bio in a nutshell. I think the real reason people are here is, to find out where people stand and why they're running. And the reason why I'm running, there's a quote from Warren Buffett, who's a great investor that I like. And he said, when the times are good, no one really, everybody enjoys, right? The rising tide lifts all ships and everyone goes for a swim. But when that tide comes out, you're going to find out who's been swimming without a bathing suit. And I think that metaphor, stands true for, what COVID did, right? Everything was going really, pretty well. Right? The economy was going well, the schools were doing well, and then COVID came. And I just think we didn't handle it the best. And it was clear at that point that the school committee has great responsibility in terms of the budget, the hiring of the superintendent, et cetera. And I think for myself and a lot of other parents in town and a lot of other for just voters in town, came to realize that. And when we were trying to communicate with the school committee, it was challenging. So really, I have a platform of three points: communication, transparency, and accountability. Communication, I pledge to you, as if elected, I will hold office hours every month, and I will listen to every voice. We may not agree, but I want to know what the voters, what the community, and what the stakeholders want the school committee to do. I want to be accountable to the voters. I don't want to be accountable to the administration. The administration is accountable to the school committee, who is accountable to the voters. And I think we've lost that a little bit. And I think we learned a great deal about it during COVID, and that's why I'm running.
Thank you very much. Okay, next up is Joan Frank.
First of all, I'd like to thank the Northborough Vision PAC for hosting tonight's candidates forum. My name is Joan Frank, and as a Northborough candidate for the 3-year position on the Northborough-Southborough Regional School Committee, I am asking for the continued support of the voters in both communities in my quest to further teamwork and collaboration among educators and community members to work together towards a common vision of educational excellence, that delivers the appropriate services to students through policy, implementation, and budget development. My husband Robert and I have been residents of Northborough since 1978 with 2 children that are the products of the excellent school system. As a parent, when my kids were in school, I became very much involved, and since I was a stay-at-home mom at that time, and I did volunteer work by being on the first Peasley School Improvement Council and then the Milliken Middle School as a co-chair. I also helped in the community by being a Cub Scout Den mom and also a CC teacher at St. Rose of Lima. I grew up with the statement when I was a 10-year-old girl, which was, ask not what your country can do for you, do what you can do for your country. And the way that I could give back to my community was to be in education. The world of education is an integral part of my life. I began my teaching career in Pennsylvania in 1971, and after relocating to Massachusetts, I worked for the Department of Education. I currently am a retired educator with 30 years of service, retiring as a literacy specialist from Hopkinton Schools 3 years ago. I designed English language curriculum, assessment, direct instruction, and I also was selected to serve on the MCAS Development Committee for ELA for grades 4 and 5, where I worked to assist in reviewing the reading passages, test questions, and scoring rubrics of the tests that went out to all students in Massachusetts in grades 4 and 5. Since 1994, I've been served on the Northborough School Committee and the Northborough-Southborough Regional School Committee. I have been in positions as chair of all of them, working on the library trustees. Through the school committee responsibilities of budget, policy, and evaluating the superintendent, these are my platform goals: to address pandemic-era learning loss and its outcomes, to support social and emotional learning so that students develop and enhance their social and emotional skills to succeed in school and life, to maintain and advocate for small class sizes and staff to support social and emotional learning, and last, to assure the best educational rate of return for each tax dollar invested for Algonquin Regional High School. Thank you for the audience that here is tonight, and thank you to the audience that will be watching that. As a school committee member, when we had Zoom meetings, one of the first meetings that we had in rephasing of the opening of schools, on the Zoom, there were 400 parents that were on attendance and could ask questions at the beginning of the meeting and at the end of the meeting, and that time I was the chair of the Regional School Committee. Thank you.
I just have to say, wow, that is one of the benefits of Zoom, I guess. So I do want to just mention that for the Northborough-Southborough Regional High School Committee, there is also one Southborough candidate, and Matthew Spencer had unfortunately been unable to attend this evening. Northborough residents do vote for the Southborough candidates, as well as Southborough residents vote for the Northborough candidates. Just an FYI. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. All right, so we're going to go on to our questions. Prior to convening, I did have each of the candidates draw a card to see who would get the first question. The way it'll work is the person will be asked a question. They'll have up to 2 minutes to answer, and then the other candidate will have an opportunity for rebuttal of 1 minute. And then we will alternate back and forth. And Bryce is going to get 2 minutes to answer questions. Yes, he's going to debate himself. Okay. So Joan, annually, the Regional High School Committee begins the budget process by establishing budget priorities. Please highlight current budget priorities you support or budget priorities you would like to propose for the 2022-2023 school year. You have 2 minutes.
The first budget priority that was voted on by all 10 committee members was to prioritize social, emotional, and physical well-being of students and staff as related to COVID-19. This has been a hard year 2 years that have been hard since March of 2020. We had students in school, out of school. We had special ed students coming in 5 days of the week. We had computers delivered to every student so that they could do remote learning. So for that reason, those students have not had the interaction with their teachers, with their students, and their peers. Just as we as adults have felt isolated, groups would go out and just start singing or yelling, so did the kids. So this is the emotional and social, emotional, and physical well-being that is the priority of the budget for this year and for next year. At the same time, at the high school, you have to maintain high-quality instructional programming and instructional resources, including technology. We're striving to achieve class sizes according to the school committee policy. We like small class sizes because it allows more of a one-on-one interaction, and the teachers get to know their students. Some of you may be saying, well, the class sizes are going down, but the budget is going up. Why would that be? The thing is that through the budget process, along with our budget priority, is that we have not hired teachers that have retired or have left and gone to other jobs. And we also have been trying to use our resources and grants, any ESSER grants that we can get, to help in this time, which we were so graciously given to by the government. We also want to prepare all students for high-level success in college and career readiness. Not all students will go to college. There are wonderful jobs for kids to have. They have to be career readiness. We are there to teach all the students. And we want to create and fund a short and long-term capital plan that we have for the high school. And we want to fund, right now we have the Coalition for Equity, and we would like to fund the school committee approved initiatives that are recommended by the Coalition for Equity, and also for the school improvement plan and the Vision 2020 26 strategic plan that takes us for the next 4 years.
Thank you. So Karen, I just wanted to make sure, so when you put it down, that means the minute is over? Okay, all right,
Oh,
so,
okay.
all right, sorry.
That's okay.
All right, I apologize.
Take it off the next time.
Okay, all right, so Bill, you have an opportunity to respond, and obviously, if you have priorities that you would propose, should you be elected, if you would want to highlight those as well.
Sure. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So, Joan, I don't think, I'm not going to disagree with small class sizes and the need for technology. I think those are critical things that any budget needs to address. I think the challenges of the upcoming budget, as I see them, are twofold. First, looking backwards, right, we have a lot of lost time with the remote learning. We need to find out the most effective way to put the tax dollars we're entrusted with, spending that on making sure that we take care of those kids who we told, to go home for a long time. The second thing we need to do is be forward-looking and not backwards-looking. So with forward-looking, inflation is here, and I know I can become pretty much a finance and economic policy wonk, but I'll try to avoid that right here. The only way to break inflation is to raise interest rates and put us into a recession. So we have inflation, we have a recession most likely coming. If I could tell you that for sure, I wouldn't be sitting here, I'd be sitting somewhere in the Caribbean. But we need to make sure that we have a plan in place to how to deal with shortfalls and not treat the budget as a wish list, and just be, again, fiscally responsible and focus on the education of our kids. That should be the absolute priority. The extracurricular can come in afterwards, but we have to focus on the education.
Thank you very much. And I am going to be a little lenient with the time, because with Ms. Howard not being here, there is a little bit of gap.
I keep forgetting to look, so I'll look next time.
Don't worry.
You can do that, do that.
Absolutely,
Exactly.
don't worry about it. Okay, so Bryce, as a newly elected member of the Northborough School Committee, what would your goals be for your first term? And you have 2 minutes-ish.
So, in the first 3 years, given that the public chooses to elect me to the position, I think I will spend a lot of time evaluating the budget process for the K-8 program as well, to make sure that the tax dollars here are spent wisely and in accordance with state regulations that best benefit the students. I think additionally, there are data metrics being put out right now that are pointed to evaluate the health and wellness of the students in our community. I think once we get that data back, and hopefully we'll have it back by later this spring, that we will be able to take actionable steps to help not only close the education gap, but to also improve the level of health and wellness for our students. I think that goes beyond just their physical and mental well-being. I think it's a holistic approach to make sure that our students are being grounded in advocacy for their own agency, able to kind of speak their minds when there are topics that they feel are important, and to bring those to power in a way that is productive and effective for our students in this community. There are several enrollment evaluations happening at the moment, and given the state of our K through 5 schools, or at least a couple of them, we do need to do an evaluation of classroom sizes, building efficacies, and future planning. To Bill's point, we need to look forward another 10 and 15 years to make sure that the schools that we have allow for healthy learning environments and ample parent choice for classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Did you want to a rebuttal?
That was great.
Well done.
Thank you very much. Okay, Bill.
Yes.
The Regional High School Committee conducted a feasibility study of their outdoor athletic complex. A proposal has been brought forward detailing enhancements to the complex totaling an estimated $6 million, with plans to bring the capital project forward to town meeting for approval in fiscal year 2024. Please share your thoughts on the capital investment of this magnitude to modernize and update the Algonquin Regional High School complex.
Yeah, so I think, thank you for the question. I think I'll start off by saying I'm a big proponent of athletics, drama, all sorts of extracurricular activities. My kids are big into sports, baseball players, hockey players, they play golf. So, having good modern fields is important. That being said, I was surprised when I first heard about it because I had not heard anybody engage the community to see what type of private fundraising could be done. I would have gladly jumped at the opportunity to do something like that. You're talking, it was a little over $6 million, you said. Surely there's some town benefit and obviously a school benefit for tax dollars being put towards that, but for the taxpayers funding the whole thing, I don't know if that's really where we want to put our tax dollars right now, dealing with, the decisions that we made, and I'm not here to judge the decisions, we made them, but now we owe it to our kids to make up for them. And that is the most important thing we should be doing with tax dollars. And I get it, you can make the argument that, athletics is going to help with some of that. I think the tax dollars probably should go towards some of that. But we have such a great resource with the parents and the citizens of Northborough and Southborough who work in marketing. Some of them do fundraising for a living. Who knows? Maybe we have somebody here that even designs these fields. So I just feel like the community is a resource not only for fundraising, but for ideas, for mentoring students that are on business tracks or science tracks at school, and they're grossly underutilized. And there's very little direction on how to get involved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Joan?
May I just ask for question for clarification? How long do I have for rebuttal?
1 minute.
Oh, okay. All right, so last night at the regional meeting, we had a presentation by Gale Associates, which is going to be doing the same presentation at the Northborough Town Meeting and also at the April 25th and May 4th at the Southborough Town Meeting. This is just an informational to bring to you and to see what Gale Associates, which did a survey of all the fields and everything, and what would be the most feasible thing. The current project, I would like to say, is the first, if we did everything in one phase, would be $7,558,029. Northborough's share would be $4,534,800. We have a contingency in there of 25%, which would be if the, for cost escalation, time, we can't get materials, that 25%, if we don't have a contingency, the cost to Northborough would be $3.4 million. We have been looking at the fields since 2013, and last night we voted in the school committee, we voted in to do an athletic complex project committee, and it will consist of people in the town. It will consist of representative students, the school principal, 2 community members, who will be one from Northborough, one for Southborough, with architecture, engineering, or construction experience. We are just in the phases to educate you, the public, and the voters, and the students, but we need your input. At all meetings, we have 2 audience sharings at the beginning and the end. We value your input and want to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you. So just as a follow-up, because listening to what both Bryce and Bill said just about, and you can't not pick up the paper and look at recession, inflation, and fiscal year 2024 will actually be starting in July of 2023. With that thought, each of you, and Bill, I'll start with you, do you think this is, I appreciate the fact that we have been waiting to do this, is this a good time potentially to move it forward?
So it could be. I think it depends on the source of funds. I would say in an inflationary environment, it's better to spend money now than later because, money is going to be worth less later. But I really think it all comes down to what is the benefit to the students, the school, and the community, and is it worth the costs? And you really just have to do what's the return on that investment going to be, and whose investment is it going to be? I think those are I can't answer that question without knowing that, but I think there's probably an argument to be made to get it done and a way to get it done.
Okay, thank you. And Joan, as a sitting member, I don't watch the meetings, I apologize. Is that something that you anguish over now? Like, is this the right time? Is it not the right time? Do we have a crystal ball?
I think since when I served on the capital subcommittee and the boosters came to us with a proposal where they were going to do it through solar, and they were going to put the solar on the roof of the high school, and then they were going to sell it out to other communities. We didn't know if we're in that business to do that, and what would be the effect of on the roof, because the roof was never built when the renovation to take that weight. So we have been looking at this. I think that it's a time to come together. I think the towns of Northborough and Southborough came together when we wanted to do the renovation of the high school. The towns came together when we wanted to do the renovation of Lincoln Street School. We're going to be bringing up the renovation of Peasley because we have to look at all the schools. We're also, as a town, looking at the fire department. The more times that we can talk about this among everybody and get good ideas and have that subcommittee that we have, the committee that's coming, and I hope some of you will hear it and apply to the superintendent for those positions, because this is a community resource. This is what everybody uses. It's used for town sports. The fields have not been touched other than repairing, especially the track, since 1994. We have done as much as we can. We have a director of facilities who has patched it, and we're beyond useful life right now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Bryce. Okay. Currently, the Northborough School Committee has approved a study group to evaluate the potential need to change the grade configuration for the K-5 schools. Can you share your thoughts on what are the critical informational components needed to make a decision of this magnitude for the school district? Can you tell the word we like? The word of the day? Magnitude.
Magnitude.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
critical.
what are your thoughts on the potential or the study of changing the configuration of the schools?
I think to the point of capital project improvements, it needs to be done in consideration with long-term financial goals of the community and the schools. I mean, I do think right now, K-8, at least K-5, is sitting in a tough place where you've only got 2 classrooms per grade level at this point. So if a parent or a student has a dynamic with a teacher that is unenjoyable or unrewarding, there's only one other classroom to go to, and there's no real clear understanding to me that that is an effective choice at this point. I mean, I think that our educators do an amazing job and do the best they can, but there does need to be an ongoing evaluation, whether it's a format similar to Southborough. I mean, I know we compare a lot with Southborough. I don't necessarily feel the need to do that, but they've got an interesting setup. Mm-hmm. Or it's a consolidation and centralization of the efforts. I mean, I look at it and see an overly distributed K-5 program. Mm-hmm. To a certain extent, where there are a lot of resources going into all of the buildings. And I think this is an opportunity for us to take a long, hard look at what the next 15 to 25 years looks like for class choice, class size, and healthy building environments.
Thank you. So just as a follow-up, because I didn't know about this until the question was formulated in advance of tonight. So can you just tell people a little bit about what one of the potential changes are? Because, I mean, my kids went K-5 at a school, and then they went to the middle school. There's some I hear the term sister school, but I honestly don't know.
The only example I've been given has been in comparison with Southborough, where they've got a pre-K through 1, a 2-3, a 4-5, and then off to the middle school.
Okay.
That's the only one that I've heard aired out at the moment. Again, that's just all I've heard aired
Sure.
out.
Okay.
So that's the extent of what I've heard put forward.
Okay.
But I think that there are likely other creative outcomes possible.
I know that one of the areas was that currently we have low enrollment in certain schools, but
Yes.
not in others.
Yes.
And if you move into town now, there's the potential that your second grader could go to Z school and your fifth grader could go to Lincoln because of the availability in the classrooms.
Yeah, their desire to keep the essentially 1 teacher to 20 student ratio is impacting some of that at the older grades. I think K through 2 is still really in line with that community goal, just looking at it last week. But I don't know that that's, again, I think we can get a little bit more creative with some of the solutions that we draw moving forward.
All right.
Yeah, and I think as we look to invest in these buildings, some we have to do now for safety. You know, the roof at Proctor is kind of a no option for us to move forward with. You know, there's mold and contamination issues in the building. Like they're doing an amazing job to clean it, but like there's $250,000 that might need to get invested there.
Right.
I think we're getting to the point with the age of our schools that we need to start evaluating these short-term investments and long-term outcomes.
Thank you. Okay, so the next question is for Joan to start with. Okay, so we've talked a lot about structures and facilities and things like that, but this question specifically, what would you recommend the Regional School Committee prioritize in the next 3 years to promote successful outcomes to our students? For our students, sorry.
I think I'd have to go back to my platform goals. I think
certainly may.
the most important thing is that we look at the social and emotional of these students. We have some programs that are going on right now. We had a author series that was just over in Southborough at the Trottier School, and it's storytelling, getting kids to talk to each other, to tell a story. I was at that meeting with my husband, and it was for all parents, and the kids were very excited about being part of that. I think we have to look at class sizes. We have wonderful things that are happening at Algonquin, but we also have to look at the numbers that we have in AP courses. Some of our science courses are very high. We have added on, we changed the curriculum so that biology is now given in the freshman years to allow those that want to go into the medical field that they can take all the sciences that they have. And I think the teachers there are doing a wonderful job in providing the curriculum to the kids, but we have to look at the curriculum and stay at forefront of what is there. Besides the class sizes, I think we have to realize we're educating every student. Not everyone is going to take AP classes. Some are just going to take the general, and that is fine. But we have to work with everyone from the special ed student up to those that are exceeding. And I think we have to keep the environment that we have at Algonquin right now, which is very enriching, and all the students love to attend that school. That do go there, we have the numbers that are not really increasing, but they're increasing from the towns. Southborough this year has more that will be attending this year than they did last year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill?
Thank you. I'm sorry, would you mind just repeating the
Not
question
at
one
all.
more time? Thank you.
What would you recommend the Regional School Committee prioritize over the next 3 years to promote successful outcomes for the students?
Thank you. Appreciate the question. So I think it's really simple. My belief is that the cornerstone of any education should be, really based on a classic liberal arts education. We need to make sure that our kids are proficient or, beyond proficient in reading, in writing, in math. Make sure they're introduced to the humanities and the arts. And that's the only way that we're going to allow these children to grow up, become civic-minded leaders, become good citizens, and become stewards of our legacies. And that's what we need to focus on. And I know we keep harping back to it, but my youngest is a sophomore. My oldest is a sophomore. He just got his license. Like, that time is ticking away. In 2 years, he's going to be applying to college. I understand the rest of the cohort in the world, has the same experiences, but I am very, very concerned, particularly for him and his classmates, that they had their freshman year of high school the way they did. It's a critical year, and I would just like to see the focus beyond the basics, especially for that cohort that had to deal with COVID.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Bryce. As a school committee member, how will you balance the needs and interests of the students, parents, faculty, and taxpayers?
With a scale. No, I mean, I think being of service in the public setting is about being open. To Bill's point, I love the idea of having some open office hours. I think it's important and critical that the public have someone they can go to voice their concerns. Again, it may not be something I'm in line with, but it's worth listening to and understanding. Everybody has, to a certain degree, a different experience, even if we're all in the same community, even if we're all in the same schools. And I think it's important to keep in mind that we are committed to keeping a fiscally responsible school budget, a dedicated and compassionate learning environment for our students, and an open space for our parents to give us feedback on how we're being successful in those areas. I think that we've got an opportunity here coming out of this thing, right? And I think it can't be understated that it's an opportunity we shouldn't miss out on. I know that the transition to remote learning was really hard for a lot of students, but a brief example is that it was actually incredible for some others. And I think we'd be remiss in doing a disservice if we really didn't look at the scope and diversity of our learning environments to create positive outcomes for more and more students.
Thank you very much. Okay, so Bill,
Yes.
even though you all touched a little bit on this, but the regional school committee has met recent challenges such as COVID testing, masking, and returning to the in-person learning. What are the biggest educational challenges that have emerged during the pandemic, and what are some of the strategies to overcome them in the future?
Yeah, so I think Bryce touched on it quite well. Remote learning could be a very different experience depending on where you lived, who your teacher was, what type of learner you were, if you're a tactile learner, if you're a visual learner. So I think the biggest, I just got lost in my thoughts. So rather than stumble through it,
There
I'm
you
sorry,
go.
what was
That's
the,
okay. All right, what strategy?
the strategy,
Right.
thank you. So, I think really what we need to do is, there's an opportunity to really look at remote learning. You're working in IT, I've seen it a lot with all the collaboration tools and all the big players coming up. There's no reason why our classrooms should not be equipped for a teacher to stand in there and to teach to a remote audience. If another pandemic were to happen, if another blizzard of 78 happens and we got 5 snow days in a row, there's just so many opportunities for that. If kids aren't feeling well, they could still maybe participate a little bit. There's a big opportunity to that. And again, it's taking some of what we learned from the past and it's looking to the future, to how do we get ahead of problems we might have. And I think that's an opportunity coming out of it.
Thank you. And if we get snow in the next few weeks, you can all blame Bill. Thank you. Joan, 1 minute, please.
Okay, thank you. I think some of the strategies that we have to do as we go forward in coming out of the COVID pandemic, and we have no idea if we're going to be going back into even just a slight little bump every once in a while, is that we have to keep the children engaged. We can do that through the technology, but they still have to have that one-on-one with their teachers. We have to look at the special ed students that we had coming in that had one-on-one tutoring. We had summer tutoring that was taking place at the high school. We also had some of the high school kids, they were not able this year to go down to the middle school or the elementary school, but we found ways of them engaging with each other. I think that as a school committee member, we have department head meetings, presentations that happen usually one every month. And we have heard about the library presentation last month. We heard about the career and internship college preparatory classes and what they do there. And I think we have to do as much as we can to be an informed school committee member and be reactionary, but be reactionary with positive results and listen to everybody. and listen to the students, the teachers, and the parents, and the voters.
Thank you. Okay, Bryce. Right? Yes.
That's me.
Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure, all of a sudden I was out of order.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I tell you, I always thought I wanted to be the moderator. But I just don't know how not to just get in, like, just start listening and forgetting that I'm supposed to be doing something.
It is hard. I want to ask questions too.
Oh, maybe in the second half, we
Oh, there
we
you
could
go.
we
All right.
trade places. Okay. Okay. Bryce, performance of public education in a community has significant impact not only on the success of our students, but on our property values as well. Where is Northborough strong in performance, and where is there room for improvement? And how, as a school committee member, would you address these?
So this is a little harder to tease out at the K through 8 level. Most of the public data is on kind of high school metrics. There is some, certainly if you want to look up at MCAS scores, I think Northborough generally performs very high on technical MCAS or technical tests, so math, science. I don't know that that's necessarily an area of heightened focus for me. I think the areas of development should be in language and arts and music and other well-rounded areas of a traditional kind of liberal education that creates students who are critical thinkers, open-minded, and into constructive dialogue and exchange of ideas. I think at the younger level, that looks like more opportunities for experiential learning, more outdoor learning, more art, language, and music development learning. And I think at the middle schools, 6 through 8 level, that really looks at developing logical argumentation skills with students, really getting into a multivariate lens of our own both domestic and international histories. And creating environments where students feel free to express themselves in ways that is contributive to the community.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, our last question for the regional high school goes to Joan first. The performance of public education in the community has significant impact not only on the success of our student. Oh, it's the same question. Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. The performance of public education in a community has significant impact not only on the success of our students, but on the property values as well. Now, here's what standards or metrics would you use to monitor and evaluate the success of students and the institution of learning?
Thank you. I think as a regional school committee member, we look at that all the time. I think even you, as the public, can look at U.S. News and World Report. The Boston Globe used to rate the high schools. But the ones, we look at those, and every one of those always, and even the Boston Magazine. But they would also, sometimes the Boston Magazine would only go as far as Southborough and wouldn't do Northborough. So sometimes we weren't rated on that. We look at all those metrics all the times to see how we can become better. We never rest on our laurels, and I don't think the educators in our towns either. Right now, ARHS is at the top 10 in the state in academic achievement. Are we going to sit back and say, wow, that's great? Yes, for one day, and then we get back to work and try to get better. Advanced placement tests that are given to the students, they're rated on a score of 1 to 5. We are 17th in the state out of 291 districts. We're 17 out of 291 in the top, and we have top 6% with scores of 3 to 5. And when you get a 3 to 5, sometimes when those kids go to college, they can opt out of a college course, which will help the parents financially, and it also helps the students to take, even probably graduate sooner or take other courses. Our SAT performance in ELA, we're in the top 15%, in math, we're at the top 10%. Would we like to be higher? Of course we would. We're preparing students for college and college readiness. We're never going to rest on our laurels. We look at always ways to improve, and where there are many metrics that we look at and under many standards. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill?
Thank you. Again, Algonquin is a great school, and I am proud of a lot of the achievements we get. I think there was an article recently came out with the ranking. I think you just mentioned it, Joan, with the AP test. And I was really proud. Algonquin almost cracked the top 10. That's fantastic, especially in the state of Massachusetts. But then so that's great, but then I forgive me, I forget which meeting it was, but I was watching a school committee meeting, and the topic of AP classes came up, and the chair of the committee actually recommended that we get rid of AP classes. With anyone who has a child preparing for college knows it's not necessarily the AP test that they're looking for. Colleges are looking at how many AP classes you took. And, I know we need to educate everybody, not just with the goal of getting in college, but if we look at the numbers, there's, it's around 90, maybe a little north of 90% matriculation rate from Algonquin to college, so that's where most of the courses, the kids are headed. That's what we need to be focused on. There need to be clear metrics and key performance indicators that the superintendent and the principal are held accountable to every year.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, so now we're going to go to closing remarks for our first half, and we'll have our moderator be the bookend. So since he started, he'll go last. So we'll start at this end of the table. Joan, just 1 minute just to for closing remarks, please.
Well, I'd like to thank you for the time that you're afforded tonight. And if you missed one part of this, go back and you can rewatch it on TV. I know that from the comments that I received from the constituents, through emails, through telephone calls, I'm always available 24/7. And I would say that in conclusion, the strongest asset that I bring to my position as a regional school committee member is 36 years of educational and business spirit, organizational skills, and a strong commitment to serve you. I have done that for 34 years. I am in education. I want to learn. I'm not done learning yet, and that's what I bestow upon all the kids and the educators. I would also like to say that as a regional member and also as a member of the Superintendency Union Number 3, that we are involved right now in coming up into evaluating the superintendent. And that's an important part that we have to do. And we have every member of Northborough K-8, Southborough K-8, the regional, and to vote to do the evaluation of the superintendent. And it's an important part. Stay tuned, watch us in June, and that's when the final presentation will be made to the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill?
Thank you very much. So thank you for moderating tonight. Thank you all for coming out. I really appreciate it, and appreciate the sponsorship of this event. I think it's critical that you know who you're voting for. And looking around the room, many of you don't know me. I welcome you to come get to know me. Today I launched a Facebook campaign site. I personally got off Facebook many years ago because it is, in my opinion, vile, but this forced me back onto it for the campaign only. So the information is on the my info sheet in the back of the room. But I'm asking for your vote because I feel like I've been called to serve to this position. I wasn't looking for something to do. I wasn't looking to get on the school committee. I saw a lot of things happening that I didn't like. I was talking to a lot of parents, a lot of people in town that had similar concerns, and the opportunity to run came, and I took it. So I ask for your vote to serve you, the voters of Northborough and Southborough, in a transparent manner with communication. I was born with 2 ears and 1 mouth. I'm meant to listen twice as much as I talk, and hold me accountable for what I do. I am accountable to you. I am not accountable to the superintendent. I am not accountable to the school board. I am accountable to the citizens of Northborough and Southborough. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Bryce?
This is great. I really, this is exactly why I wanted to do this when I was approached, is that I have been looking for an opportunity to be of service to a community that we feel integrated into. And since moving here in 2019, despite all the constraints in our ability to have our kids play with other kids and meet other adults and go out and talk to folks, we were still welcomed by all of our neighbors. Some of you maybe even live in our neighborhood, and it's just been an experience that my wife and I just have cherished. Our children love it here, and I currently work in public schools. I'm a food and nutrition director for Concord and Carlisle. I certainly don't hold them as anything that we need to look to as an example, but it's shown me that there are There are more opportunities than there are problems, in my opinion. There are solutions to our problems, and we can help develop them together. And so I hope you choose me in May. And thank you very much for your consideration, even if you don't. Thank you.
Thank you. Fred?
The Bookend is my nickname. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here this evening, and those of you that are watching on TV or will be watching on TV, I thank you as well. I thank the sponsorship for giving all of us the opportunity to have our say and try to communicate that effectively to each and every one of you. I am asking again for your vote, and the reason I think it's extremely important is that Northborough has had a very rich history in our town meetings, and where individuals have had the opportunity to stand up and speak about things that they felt very strongly about. My role as moderator is to ensure that everyone has that opportunity, but it doesn't turn into a free-for-all. So I typically have a gavel in one hand and a chair in the other hand. And looking for that balance is really key for me as the town moderator. So I ask you, please, on May 10th, you vote for me for town moderator.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, and at this time, we are going to take a break, but I'd like to give a nice round of applause to all of the candidates up here. So thank you, everyone. This is the second half of the candidates forum for the Northborough town elections on May 11th. And this evening, we have 3 candidates for the Board of Selectmen and 2 candidates for the Planning Board. So we will start with the Board of Selectmen, because there are 3 candidates for the Board of Selectmen. The first, they used cards to see who would go first. The first person will have 2 minutes to answer the question, then the next 2 will have 1 minute to rebut, and then we will alternate 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay? All right. By the luck of the the Queen of Hearts, Leslie Rattan is first.
Oh. I had a feeling that was going to be the case.
So,
I pulled the Queen of Hearts card. I thought, oh boy, here we go.
there you go. Oh, yes, yes. Okay. So, according to the assessor's office, the top 15
Did
tax...
you, excuse me, did you want us to do an opening?
Oh, duh, yes. I do. The camera. All right, so we do. All right, so why don't we just go straight down? Tom, if you want to start
right,
with
great.
your opening remarks. I'm sorry.
Hi, Northborough. Thank you so much for watching tonight on TV, and thank you, Rick Courier and Northborough's Vision, for having us. I'm a very green person. I'm a planter. I like growth, and one of my highlights of living in Northborough is Will Deedy, my nephew, is the one that started the community garden at St. Rosalima Church. That's been going quite successful for 14 years. At the same time, Northborough Trinity Church is going to start a garden April 22nd. I'm very open-minded as far as helping people and just really being out there. Because I have a seizure disorder, I found myself early pandemic not being able to get to the grocery store. They actually cut MART, WRTA rather, which is the handicap bus line. And based on that, I was stuck. I had to find a new way to get to the grocery store, and it was just awful. One of the highlights is just being able to live with seniors. I live in housing authority property, and I'm able to see how these people are surviving and growing and really prospering. Even though they're coming on with the years, they're still able to get out and do things, and a lot of them actually helped me to get here and there during the pandemic. But I'm just excited to run for selectman, because I think as a disabled person who uses most of the benefits, I've used the food pantry, I go to the community suppers, I can really make a difference because I know what works, what doesn't work. So I'm able to be out there advocating for others based on having needs.
Thank you very much. Mitch?
Hi, my name is Mitch Cohen. I've been in town for a bunch of years. My wife Elisa is here in the audience, and we have two girls, one at Melican and one at Algonquin. I'm very active in town government and have been for decades. Currently, I serve as vice chair of the Library Board of Trustees. I was elected chair just a few hours ago of the Municipal Code and Bylaw Committee, which proves my government nerdiness, that's just the best title in the world for a committee. And I'm a member of the Fire Station Feasibility Study Committee, and I served on the search committee for the Z School principal. You may know me as the one who organized the Hanukkah menorah that we added to the tree lighting celebration this past year, which was wonderful for the Jewish community, and I hope it's just the first of many additional celebrations and events for the people of all faiths and cultures in the town of Northborough. I'm also involved in the dog park group that's presenting the article at town meeting to fund the design of that. Prior to coming to Northborough, I was extremely active in our former town, the town of Douglas, which is just south of Worcester. I served 2 terms on the Board of Selectmen there, 2 terms on school committee, 2 terms on financial planning, and a huge, huge list that I could not possibly go through in the 2 minutes that are left. But I love local government. It's a lot of fun, it's very rewarding, and I think I'm really good at it. I see that the Board of Selectmen, which is made up of 5 really, really good, caring people, is slowing down a bit. I think that there's an opportunity and a need to spend a lot more time talking about economic development, particularly in the downtown. And usually when I bring that up, I hear, oh, we've got a master plan, let's see what the master plan says. Well, I looked at the master plan, and I also looked at the last master plan, and I looked at the master plan before that, and they all say you need an economic development committee, and we don't have one. And they all say all these things. They're all the same things. And I think we need to really spend some time working on that. I'm a very big advocate for strong transparency, and I've spoken to the Board of Selectmen about that, and we've seen some improvements as a result. Transparency isn't just the public seeing into what the government is doing, but also being able to participate and influence what needs to happen. And I hope there are some questions about transparency tonight, because that's really the cornerstone for good government. I am worried about taxes and the lack of discussion about taxes. At the last Board of Selectmen meeting, the town administrator said that our proposed budget for town meeting increases property taxes almost 6.5%, and no one even peeped about that, and then said, well, in a few more years we may have to seek some overrides as the taxes go up, and no one asked any questions about that. Those are some serious issues that the board needs to get into right away. Thank you.
Thank you. Leslie?
Okay, I was going to wing it, but I think that'd be a bad idea. I don't want. So I just have some notes here. My name is Leslie Rutan, and I'm running for re-election to the Board of Selectmen. Thank you very much for attending, and thank you very much to Northborough's Vision for hosting this at the American Legion, which is wonderful. It's a wonderful setting. I've been here in debates before. My husband Mark and I have lived in town for 31 years, and we have 3 children, Pat, Emily, and Ben, all of whom are very proud graduates of Algonquin Regional High School. We all enjoy everything that Northborough has to offer, and I felt that by getting involved with the schools as soon as my oldest started at Peaslee would be a great way to get involved. Initially, I was PTO co-chair and then elected to the Peaslee School Council, where I worked with faculty and parents on school improvement plan. I then became the treasurer of the PTO for the Melican Middle School. In fact, I was on that for 7 years, well after my youngest had left the middle school, because I really enjoyed counting all the money from the magazine drive. I joined the Northborough Education Foundation and was on that for a few years. And then I was twice elected to the Northborough School Committee, which I enjoyed very, very much. We worked with the superintendent and school administration on the budget, capital items, and on issues facing the schools. I decided to run for the Board of Selectmen, where I felt that my knowledge of the schools would be helpful in decisions regarding the town as a whole. I met with a bit of resistance on the Board of Selectmen at that time, because I kept mentioning the schools under my reports. A couple of them would turn to me and say, why do you talk about the schools all the time? And I said, well, you realize that the schools are the largest part of our budget, number one. Number two, they're a huge asset in our community and something we should be very, very proud of. So eventually, people started mentioning the schools a little bit more in their reports, and it became something that obviously is something the Board of Selectmen needs to be concerned and involved with as well. Because of this, I worked hard to improve the bridge between the town and the schools for improved collaboration on the budget and also the annual health plans for all school and municipal staff. I know that the town administrator has been able to come up with some pretty good savings on that front because those health plans cover both school and municipal employees. So very, very important. I've also continued to meet as a member of the Melica Middle School Council, and I'm also on the Algonquin School Council and a member of the Superintendent's Advisory Committee because I feel that it's important to know what's going on in the schools in order to be an effective selectman. As a member of the Board of Selectmen, and I apologize for using the word "I," it's not my favorite thing, but it can't be helped here. I was chair for 4 years of the Lincoln Street School Building Committee, and from that process, we came up with a wonderful addition renovation at Lincoln Street School. We worked with owner's project manager, the architect, MSBA, obviously, for reimbursement, and we came in $1 million under budget, which is something we're very, very proud of. And I look forward to being part of that process when Peaslee comes online, and that's something I'm going to strongly advocate for, but only if we can go through the MSBA, because the reimbursement can be somewhere in the area of 40 to 50%. Okay. I continue to work with residents on a variety of issues, and one of the biggest issues is the town trash. And years ago, I had asked residents to email me with their thoughts on the pay-as-you-throw program. And a little-known fact is that it was my idea to do the bulky item sticker. That's not why it's pink necessarily, but it's something that I felt important so that people could very easily and quickly get rid of their own burnable household large items at their curb. So that's something I felt very strongly about. I attend meetings of subcommittees that each of us
Leslie?
is liaison. Yes?
Oh, I just,
Oh, is that it?
yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry.
okay.
I'll continue later then.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, all
Okay.
right, okay. So Fred was the bookends, you're now the trash lady, the bulky sticker.
I always have been, I think, yes.
There you go, all right.
Thank you.
John?
Yes, thank you. Good evening. Okay. And thank you very much for hosting this evening's event. My wife Peggy and I, we bought our first house in Northborough 38 years ago, and we've been blessed to raise 8 children in this wonderful town. We're also proud grandparents of 6. And during the years, I've been a very active community member, coaching soccer, baseball, basketball, and I'm presently the board treasurer of the Northborough Youth Hockey Program, the North Star Youth Forum. My family, we're very active at St. Bernadette Parish, where I've been a lector and a volunteer for over 30 years. My wife has taught at St. Bernadette School since its inception in 1997. I've been in the insurance business my entire career. I'm currently a senior vice president of a national brokerage firm with offices located here in Northborough. I specialize in property insurance and have an extensive experience in both residential and commercial property issues. This professional experience will help me provide the planning board with key insights and perspective on various permitting and building accommodations that may be requested by property owners from time to time. The role also requires problem solving and conflict resolution. And as a father of 8, I have that experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Phil?
Thank you. Thank you to Northborough's Vision PAC and the American Legion for hosting us this evening. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Bill Pierce. Again, I have the same problem as the other Bill. You'll see my name says William on the ballot. I'm running for a Northborough Planning Board seat. My name also might sound a little familiar for anyone who's been in town for a long time. My Aunt Kathy is a member of the Historical Society and has raised a family in town and been a member in town for a long time. She's someone who I really have a lot of respect for and looked up to for a long time. Of course, when I asked her to sign my nomination papers, she refused until she knew what my issues were that I was standing for in town. Anyone who knows my Aunt Kathy, as I'm sure Fran does, will tell you that's my Aunt Kathy in a nutshell. A little about me. I was born and raised in central Massachusetts. I grew up in Millbury. I went to high school at Holy Name, which is now St. Paul's in Worcester. I've been married to a wonderful woman for 14 years. We have a set of twins currently at the Middleton Middle School. We've been living in Northborough for 7 years now. Previously, while living in Marlborough, I was a member of the local homeowners association, overseeing 170 plus single-family type homes. That's really where I got my first experience of being on a board and seeing what the work is that's involved. Soon after moving to Northborough, I joined the Northborough Extended Day Program as a board member. After finishing my master's degree in 2020, I became a member of the Open Space and Code and Bylaw Committee in Northborough. I'm also a soccer coach with the local soccer team. I'll not bore you with the rest of my life story. You can read that in the flyer in the back if you really want to. I do have training in risk management and project management. I work for the MBTA in IT and cybersecurity is my master's. So a lot of people think that's a lot of people with hands on keyboards fighting, and it's not. It's a lot of risk management. I attended many planning board meetings and board of selectmen meetings in town. I've spoken to both groups via public forum. I've stood up and spoken out about the conditions of the sidewalks in Northborough, as well as the issues with cybersecurity within the school computer system at town meeting. I attended the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission meeting in October to go over the traffic and trucking issues in Bartlett Street. So why am I running? I've always believed that actions speak louder than words. Anyone can complain about things happening around them, but I prefer to put in the work to change what needs to be changed. That means getting involved, whether it's spending my spare time coaching, doing some research on a particular item, or sitting in meetings and helping with my time and experience. I'm going to end in a Karen Wickstead style ending with a quote from the Bee Gees of something that I tell myself every day. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make the change. Thank you.
Thank you. I like the quote, I'm not a Bee Gees fan. Could have done something a little bit more hard rock. I would have been more excited.
I'll remember that next time.
Thank you. All right, so now we'll go on to the questions. Then we're going to start with the questions for the Board of Selectmen. Leslie is, again, the Queen of Hearts. So you'll have 2 minutes to answer the question, and then Mitch and Tom will each have 1 minute to rebut. Okay. According to the Assessor's Office, the top 15 taxpayers in Northborough are industrial and commercial properties. They represent 17% of the property tax receipts and do not require significant programmatic or budgetary costs to the town. As a selectman, what are the critical factors to consider when formulating the tax rate, and what is your position on the current use of a single tax rate?
Well, first of all, I'm very much in favor of a single tax rate. That is something that we vote on every year. And I think that if the single tax rate, I think, is an incentive for businesses to come to Northborough and want to do business here. I think if we go to a dual tax rate, we could actually lose some of these businesses to other communities, as opposed to wanting to be here and be treated equally. So that's a very important, I know that the Chamber of Commerce feels, obviously, I think very strongly about that, and they send in letters. We do get letters from various businesses and so forth as well. And I think that that's something that we have always done and something we should stick to in terms of our business environment here in Northborough.
Thank you. Mitch?
Sure. First part of your question was about formulating the tax rate. That's really the assessor's
Right.
assessor's job, and it's
Right.
really a mathematical exercise once you've figured out what your revenues and expenditures are. We absolutely must keep a single tax rate. Absolutely, positively. It is stressful for businesses, particularly, to see that discussion come up every year, and I would advocate for the Board of Selectmen to have a policy that says we will have a single tax rate. Legally, it needs to be voted every year once the Board of Assessors determine the rate, but we if we set it by policy, then the town has some comfort level that that's the way it should stay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom?
I also think that we should keep the single tax rate, but we truly need to do something at this point for everybody because they're all coming out of the pandemic. So yes, keep the single tax rate, but overall, people need some sort of relief.
Thank you. Okay, on to the planning board, and Bill, you're up first. Okay. According to the American Planning Association, the goal of planning is to maximize the health, safety, and economic well-being of all people living in our communities. This involves thinking about how we can move around our community, how we can attract and retain thriving businesses, where we want to live, and opportunities for recreation. Planning helps create communities of a lasting value. Thinking about that statement, what do you see as the priorities for future planning for our residents and our businesses?
For future planning, I think one of my issues has always been some of the open space. That's why I'm part of the open space committee. I think the need to keep open spaces as part of planning going forward is very important. The ability for people to be able to go out to a trail, walk around, that helps keep the health of the community up, especially when you get into something like COVID for the last couple of years, where people just needed to get out of their house. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. What was it?
And for residents and businesses, what are the priorities for future planning?
Business likes to know what's happening in town. They like consistency. One of the issues that's come up recently is the current planning board is looking at use variances. And one of the issues with a use variance with a business having to apply for a use variance is they don't know what's going to happen. They don't know if they're going to get that use variance or not. Having a business be able to move into town by right will allow them to be able to plan better, to be better businesses, and to work with the town much better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John?
Yes, thank you. I feel that it's important to balance growth, business growth, with the rural, bucolic, residential setting of Northborough. Over the years, certainly this town has grown, and I feel that there's a concern on my part that the business community is at a stage right now where we need to support the business community to provide good services to the town residents. And I feel that if there's this balanced approach between business and the residents of the town, and we can provide the necessary funding for the capital budgets. When we talk about some of the ideas that are in the master plan and the framework of the master plan, there's concepts in there that will require much needed capital. And that capital has to come from the businesses, the small businesses in town that have supported, the small businesses that are also residents of this town that have supported the peoples of this town. And in my 5 or 6 weeks on this campaign, I've just reacquainted with so many people, whether they're small business owners or residents, and they have so much in common.
Thank you. Thank you very much, John. Okay. Board of Selectmen. So this one, we start with Mitch. The town of Northborough enjoys an excellent bond rating, low debt, and healthy reserves. Our current town-wide 6-year capital plan includes many large capital investment projects. What budgeting initiatives would you support to ensure the town does not develop debt service that would overwhelm the town's operating budget?
Thank you. So, in my former town, I helped write the bylaw for financial planning, long-term capital. We actually had a 10-year capital planning process, and then I chaired that committee for about 6 years. The capital planning process is absolutely critical. One of the things that I think we need to do is not only address the capital needs of the town rather than ignore them, but make sure we plan it in accordance with good, stable tax rates. And I brought up the 6.5% projected tax increase for next year at the beginning of this. And that worries me because this past year it was really low. And you don't look at the average. Some people will say, oh, my taxes didn't go up this year, that's great, and all of a sudden it's going up $1,000 the next year, and that's not good. We need to look at how we can offset some of those capital expenditures, such as MSBA for the new school project that'll take place. I chaired a school building committee, and we negotiated to be the first elementary school in the state's model school program, and that increased our grant from the MSBA by over $1 million, and thus decreased the town's share of that by quite a bit, and also the cost in general, because the model school program is where you're copying an existing school, and we were able to tour that school. But that was critical, and that provided some buffer to be able to do a few more projects without incurring additional debt. All towns have debt. Right now, Northborough's is actually quite low. It's probably lower than it should be for a town that's investing in its future. One of the reasons that's happened with that is that we haven't gone forward with the fire station project. We haven't made a decision on that when that should have gone forward to town meeting 2 or 3 years ago. I'm on that committee. We haven't met in 3.5 years because the town hasn't purchased the land that the Pierce Garage was on. It got knocked down by the seller, and that's still under negotiations. I don't know what's happening with that because that's a Board of Selectmen decision. That's something we've got to do, but the problem is then things start to pile up. And if you have too many projects in too few years, then that impacts the tax rate in an inconsistent way, which is really what you don't want. Thank you.
That's right, and we didn't even get into inflation and recession, right? Okay, Tom?
I think we should spend now. I think that we should really put together the new fire department. Every year I see the police department looking for more money. That really concerns me. And the fact that they want to waste money trying to move over to the old town hall really concerns me. So I think overall we just need to spend money. We have it, increase the debt a little bit, but we need to help these services that really need the help, like the fire department.
Thank you. Leslie?
Wow, a lot of issues here with this question. First of all, a purchase and sale has been completed. There were a lot of mitigation issues with that land. So we had to make sure that that was done properly and that we got the proper sign off. So that should be moving forward very quickly, and I'm also on that subcommittee. There are a lot of things that happen in the budgeting process. You know, I think the capital planning done by the Board of Selectmen with the town administrator is very effective, the 6-year capital plan. And there are a lot of factors that go into that. A lot of pay-as-you-go capital, MSBA. There are a lot of different factors that determine what's going to be put on when. We have a debt policy. There are a lot of things that come into play to develop an effective budget. And unfortunately now, in terms of the tax rate, we're kind of a product of the economy and the housing values and so forth. A lot of things that we don't have control over. So no one wants to see the taxes go up. That's not a good thing, but there's some things that are out of our control that we are hopefully going to be able to keep control of next year, and I think things are going to happen. Things are going to change if we head into some sort of recession. But there are a lot of factors. We try to be very, very careful about the budgeting and try to be very careful about if and when we bring certain projects forward.
Thank you. Okay, over to the planning board. Earlier I asked about what your priorities for future planning for residents and businesses. and Bill, you actually touched a little bit on zoning, but what specific zoning issues, if any, do you think will need to be looked at in order to meet the priorities that you've mentioned? And it's John first.
Well, there's the sore subject of some of the parcels located in the town perimeters, and with valid reasons. But I think that we are, as a town, a small town with a state highway running right through the middle of it, we have some opportunity to, with the remaining parcels, to look at it and to come up with a solution. Don't know what that solution is at this point, but I think it does require some necessary thinking and thought process. There's opportunity. The development that has taken place has been on the perimeters with little imposition on neighborhoods, and I think if we can keep it on the perimeters and do it in a constructive way, a bilateral way with the property owners, and come to some common ground that is satisfactory to the nearest residents in the town as a whole, I think we can work through that process.
Okay, thank you. Bill?
So, one of the things about Northborough is its location within Central Mass, right? You've got 290, you've got 495, you've got Route 9, all highly desirable for transportation, for trucking, for distribution centers. While those are enticing, especially, places like Amazon and everything else, we've learned our lesson. We need to be really careful how we zone and who we put into those areas. I think some of the changes that might be able to be made, especially in those industrial areas, is maybe adding commercial properties, sort of like what we did with the use variance for the Wegmans Plaza, right? That was originally an industrial zone. They used a use variance to be able to put a commercial development in there. Being able to get more of that commercial, the piece of that you've got to be careful with is that commercial will also potentially raise valuations of housing, which means taxes go up. So you've got to be really careful with how you do that zoning.
Thank you. Okay, Tom? You all are actually touched on this, but I'm going in order. The current municipal capital plan includes the funding for the construction of a new fire station on West Main Street for fiscal year 2024. Do you support the construction of that facility? And then explain your reasons why, yes or no.
I think it's long overdue. To hear, I think it was a Board of Selectmen meeting last night. I think that they spoke about the fire truck. There's a fire truck that our last purchase of just a truck was 2005. Personally, I think that's ridiculous. It shows that you don't care about people's health. You just walked through a pandemic and you're not really caring about the seniors, and you're not caring about just people that need to call in for help and support. So as far as the building, I think it would be great. I think we need additional trucks, not just one. I think that somehow we can find the money for that, but I'm 100% in support of the fire building and multiple trucks.
Excellent, thank you. Leslie?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, sure. I am definitely an advocate of a new fire station. I think that the one we have was built for a volunteer group. It was also built for men, and no offense to the men in this audience. We value you greatly, but we're hoping to attract women to the fire department, and we need to have the proper quarters for them to be able to operate happily and safely. and be comfortable in their environment, just as the men are. We also need to have a good fire station that allows for our fire personnel to detox and handle their equipment properly after they get back from an incident. That's actually an issue. We need to have proper ventilation. There are all sorts of things that a new station offers that our current one does not. So I think this is something sorely needed, and it's also something important in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion committee now, in terms of being able to attract all the sorts of people that we want to attract. We want to attract everybody, and we need to have the proper facilities to do that. So I'm a strong advocate for this station.
Thank you. Mitch?
As I mentioned, it's all right, I'll let that get silenced and we'll start.
Sorry.
It's okay.
So as I mentioned earlier, I'm a member of the Fire Station Feasibility Study Committee and have been since we formed, I think, probably five and a half years ago. We absolutely have to do it for the reasons that were mentioned. We have many more vehicles, many more personnel than we did when the current station was built. And we've learned so much about the health and safety of the officers. Cancer, lung cancer and other cancers is sky high among firefighters. We need to deal with something about that by separating the area where the vehicles come in and all of the equipment comes off to, we call it a red zone, yellow zone, and green zone, so that they can get fully cleansed, and then the personnel after a fire goes back into the green zone for safety, and that's where the bunks are, absolutely men and women. I come from a town where we had women firefighters as well as men firefighters. It's surprising that we don't have that here yet. I'm also concerned about the financial impact. I'm absolutely in favor of the project, but because of the unexpected delay of this, and because of COVID interfering and jacking up the building costs, the material costs, I think the station is probably going to be $1.5 million to $3 million more than what it was forecasted initially. That might justify a little bit more discussion about the project. I also don't know if the architect's still available. We know the land is available.
Sure.
At least it's cleared now, and that's a good thing. And also, we cited it downtown, not just because it was a good place, but to hopefully jumpstart some development downtown.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Bill? This year, the planning board is presenting several zoning bylaw warrant articles at town meeting. Each of them will have impact on property owners. Of the following 3 warrant articles, signs, use variances, and the warehouse moratorium, please choose one and elaborate on your position in support or opposition.
I think after going to the CMRPC meeting in October, I think probably the warehouse is the one I think is most needed in town. One of the things with COVID, things have changed. Brick and mortar isn't really there anymore. I actually work for the MBTA. I work in downtown Boston. I hear all the time, why are we paying for buildings, for office space, for people to come into anymore? They've proven with technology that they don't have to do it. We're going to end up with more people working from home and more people in our, more residents in our town full-time, right? Eating at breakfast restaurants. I know my wife and I try to go out once a week to a local breakfast restaurant. And now there's, I think, 1, maybe 2 in town, right? The warehouse moratorium will help for the planning board to be able to understand the changes that are happening and the changes that are going to happen. It's going to happen. So we can either try to deal with it on the fly, or we can take a break, think about it for a year, get some professionals to come in, give us some advice, and then make a better determination of how we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. John?
So I have concerns with the the sign bylaw changes. And specifically, I just feel that it demonstrates this board's overreach when it comes to regulating small business. We have many businesses in town that have been in business for many, many years, and there seems to be this debate about backlit versus frontlit versus gooseneck versus size versus interior covering, and penalties with compliance, enforcement. It just seems to me that it's gone too far, and I think that the town and the voters, the residents of the town, need to really understand the impact that this could place on the small business owner when we're talking about a penalty in compliance of $300 a day, and that adds up quickly. In the course of a week, you're talking $2,000 a week, you're talking $8,000 a month. A small business owner today, just experiencing 2 years of COVID and trying to get back up on his or her feet, I just think that the time is not right.
Okay.
Nor do I know if there's really the need for it at this point in time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Leslie. There is increasing stress on our DPW, fire, and police departments that has steadily increased over the last 10 years. What are your thoughts on increasing staffing levels to address the increase in that need? And if you are in favor of it, if you think the increases are warranted, what are your recommendations for funding?
You say police and fire?
And DPW.
And DPW.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, we would need to study what exactly the workload is and determine what the staffing situation is currently. Then we need to look at the request from those particular department heads and determine exactly what they're asking for and why. If indeed the staffing levels seem to be low, I am in favor of raising the amount of staffing in those departments. And not to belittle DPW certainly, because they are extremely busy, but I feel that emergency and safety personnel take precedence, and we have to very carefully look at the shifts of our police department, the fire department, and make sure that they all feel that they have enough protection with them when they're out on calls, and that we're sufficiently monitoring incidents, the station, overnight during the day. So I am in favor of something like that, but I do think we have to look at it very carefully. We have staffing studies that are done periodically, and sometimes they seem to be valuable and sometimes they miss the mark. But I think that as a Board of Selectmen, it's very important for us to scrutinize these departments and their workloads, and if they make informed requests of us, we definitely should consider increased staffing.
Thank you. Mitch?
Thank you.
Oh, did I do it right?
So,
Sorry, yes.
yes, okay. Yeah, I mean, of course, I'll support the increase in personnel if it is justified and warranted, and we do that by comparing to similar towns and looking at the specific needs of the community and see what the overall priorities are for all departments. Unfortunately, none of those three departments come with any state reimbursement for staffing, but that doesn't mean that it's not important to do it. And how do we pay for it? You pay for it with taxes. That's the only way to pay for those things. One area that we should look at, although I have reservations about, is regional dispatch, which would cover the police and fire, and I know there are some staff level discussions taking place right now. I haven't heard the Board of Selectmen talking about that, and the concept is to regionalize the dispatch operations out of a number of towns into one location. Some states and some areas do that very effectively. Some have done that with very bad results. So, we looked at that where I used to live. We decided not to do that, even with the savings. But that's, I mean, if you're looking for ways to save money, that's one way you could save money. not necessarily with a good result.
Thank you. Tom?
Yeah, it's a couple of parts I'd like to answer individually. As far as being a walker, I walk every winter, and I notice firsthand that the sidewalks aren't being completely cleaned off. So based on a winter walk, you can tell that we definitely need DPW. As far as the police and fire, on occasion, Westboro has showed up to Northborough Housing Authority, so you know that we're definitely underfunded and understaffed. So yes, I would find a way to increase all of their potential.
Thank you. Okay, John? As the master plan implementation committee unveils their recommendations for development of our downtown district, what measures do you think should be utilized to help our current businesses transform their buildings and properties to conform to the downtown makeover?
Well, that's a challenge. You know, you've got Church Street, you got 135. We have a very unique intersection in the center of town. We've got missing teeth in the center of town with some open parcels, open lots. But I go back to encouraging investment, small business investment in town.
As a planning board member, how would you start that process or engage in that process?
Well, I think that we've got to we've got to go back to the business community and encourage businesses to come into town, and in existing businesses, you know, we're at an economic time right now where, you know, businesses are, you know, their retail businesses are getting back on their feet. There are pockets in town that you know, on the west side of town that I think are ahead of the center and the east side of town, and we have to encourage growth, small business growth, and I think we can do that given the property proposal that comes forth to the board. Work constructively with that property owner and find solutions to fill those missing teeth.
Thank you. Bill?
So one of the things about being on the planning board is you have to really plan, right? You can't wait for a business to come to you. I think the downtown has started to move. I think doing the sidewalks downtown, they're redoing the park, doing town common was a great start. One of the problems with the sidewalk is you're walking down a sidewalk and you've got a gas station, an empty building, an auto repair shop, and then another gas station. Nobody wants to walk to that. You need to put something in, get something in there that you want to walk to. I think the old town hall will be a great start. I think, you know, we'll have to see what the Board of Selectmen decides to do with that. But I think that between that parcel, and then you've got some, again, the revitalization of the kids park down there, the water park, being able to put in some trails for people to walk up on the hill, up behind the park, I think will start to add and start to make businesses want to then come into the area.
Thank you. Okay. Well, for full transparency purposes, this one is going to Mitch, and it's just the luck of the draw. Transparency
Hey, all right, thank you.
is the principle of allowing those affected by administrative decisions to know about the resulting facts and about the process that resulted in those decisions. In your opinion, has the Board of Selectmen, in their management of the towns of Northborough's governance, acted with transparency? Do you see room for improvement? And give some examples to support your opinion.
That is a good question for me.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I know.
Fran.
So you get 2 minutes.
I really, truly think that the Board of Selectmen wants to be transparent and believes that they are, but there are so many towns, virtually every town around us, that are so far ahead of where the Board of Selectmen in Northborough is with transparency. The only changes that have been made in the last couple of years in response to a letter that I brought signed by 100 people, they made the interview committee public. It was illegal before that. And the agenda packets are now posted a few hours before meetings for the public to see. The public comment, for example, during the agenda is usually near the end of the meeting after things have been discussed, and sometimes it's 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night. That should be right up front. I look at the citizens as both the customers and the boss of the Board of Selectmen. They are the most important constituent and the most important people that the Board of Selectmen should work for. There are so many things that we can and should be doing for not just the Board of Selectmen, but setting policy for the town to be more transparent and getting information out to the public, getting substantially more information on the town website, being responsive. There's so many great examples. There are towns that take, for example, any public record request that comes in. It doesn't just go to the person that requested it, it just goes right out onto the town website so everyone can see what happens. There are towns, most towns honestly, that take disclosure agreements that you file with the town clerk, and instead of going into a drawer, go out on the town website so everyone can see potential conflicts of interest. There is so much opportunity and need to listen to the public about what they need constantly during a meeting, not just at one moment, but as issues come up. Have office hours, have all sorts. I apologize for only having 2 minutes, but
Okay.
thank you very much for giving me that question.
Okay, well, I mean, it was the luck of the draw. So you believe that there is transparency, there's room for additional?
Tremendous.
There you go.
room
See,
for additional.
less than 2 minutes. Okay, Tom?
My neighbors and I live right next door to the town hall, and we're finding things out last. We don't feel like the town is telling us enough things or accurately or as quick as they should. They seem very private as far as like what they want to do and how they want to approach things. I just don't think that they're transparent.
Thank you. Leslie?
Okay. Well,
1 minute, sorry.
what, a minute?
1 minute, yeah.
Okay. First of all, Mitch does have the advantage of having worked in another community, so he can kind of compare how that community did things. I have not been a selectman in another community. I've been a selectman here for a long time, and there are certain things that our board has done a certain way that seem to work. I had no reason to think that they don't. What I don't want to confuse here is the idea that not being transparent enough means that we're hiding things. We're not. We could potentially get information out differently. We have improved the town website. There is town news. Residents are asked all the time to sign up for town emails, so you get these notifications. One of our residents who is here tonight had made the suggestion to me, and I did mention it at one of our meetings, to have our packets available before the meeting so that residents can look at the information ahead of time. Previously, when we were meeting in person, we would all sit down, residents would come in, and there would be a stack of papers by the door, and you just grabbed it on the way in and you looked at it as the meeting was happening. Never thought really much about that. It seemed to be enough. But residents are very interested in seeing things ahead of time and being able to do their own research and reach out to residents, and that's fine. So I think there are some things that we could improve upon, and I think we need to listen to residents like we always do, but there is certainly not any kind of clandestine thing going on here where we are hiding information and not wanting to make it available to people. That is not at all what we're doing. So, but we can always improve. Everybody can always improve.
Right.
And with residents and new people moving in, we have a lot of new ideas. So,
Thank you. Thank you. And I mean, I don't think either of the other candidates meant that you were intentionally hiding things. Is that correct?
Are you asking me or Mitch?
Well, no, okay.
we can clarify that, yes.
So, all right, so I apologize. I don't think that was what what at least
Oh,
one of the
no,
other
I-
candidates thought.
Of course not. That
Okay.
would be correct. Thank you very much.
Okay, all right. All right, thank you. I just wanted to give an opportunity. All right, well, I do want to keep us on time because it is almost 9 o'clock. So we're going to go to our closing comments, and we're going to start at this side of the table. So, Bill, I'm going to start with you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. This is my first time ever doing something like this, but it's great to see the community come out whenever I go to town meetings, whenever I'm, watching the Board of Selectmen or Planning Board or any of the other boards. There's always people there to make comments, and I think that's very important in a community like ours. There is one point I want to make. I am completely self-funded. I'm not taking any money from any business or anything else. Like Mitch, I believe completely in transparency. While I do talk to the businesses in town, and I have, I never and never will ask them for any money. I think that's important for any candidate. I'm a state employee, and as such, we go through ethics trainings. So I have 2 separate phones. I have to use my personal computer. When I go out, like when I went out for the CMRPC meeting, I do it on my own personal time. I actually take PTO for that. Transparency matters. And anyone that tells you different is hiding something.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming out tonight.
Thank you, Bill. John?
Thank you all very much for this opportunity this evening. Just for the record, it isn't legal to take contributions from businesses. All contributions have to be in the form of personal. So I just want to clear the record there. Okay. I believe the planning board, it should be an instrument of promoting economic growth, both residential and commercial, and finding ways to accommodate property owners while maintaining the unique characteristics of this town in Northborough. I think it's time for clear thinking and in a reasonable business approach. It's a very important part of town government, the planning board. And I think that we live in very important times. We've all expressed that this evening. I believe that a new voice that encourages process and cooperation with all stakeholders is needed. And I strongly feel I can be that voice. And I ask all residents of this town to exercise their civic duty, attempt to attend the town meeting on April 25th, and to exercise your vote on May 10th.
11.
Nothing would give me more pleasure than having 30, 40, 50% of this town resident vote, whether it's for this gentleman on the left of me or myself.
Or him.
I firmly believe in representation and in a positive turnout.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
And it's May 11th, just so you know.
10th.
10th? 10th.
May 10th.
Oh, I think I just asked for the wrong day off.
Jeez. I hope
Hate
I
it
have
when
it
that
right.
happens.
That's correct.
Vote
Sorry,
for you
I'm
on
sorry.
the 11th and me on
You
the
mean
10th.
I have to go and change all my signs?
Leslie, sorry.
Okay, I'm going to make this real snappy because I'm actually going to continue with my introduction. I didn't get through it.
There you go.
One of the many things that's been important to me is the ability to, and the opportunity to interview many fire and police candidates for our police and fire departments. That has been an absolute joy to see those individuals come through and show the kind of love they have for their work. So that's been a real pleasure. I attend the subcommittees that all of us are liaisons to and report back. Also, one of the things that's been wonderful is to have been and to be on the interview committee and interviewing wonderful residents for the many, many boards and commissions that we have. let's see, I also attended the CMRPC forum and walked Bartlett, and I'm also very interested in the truck situation on Bartlett. Our board voted last year at town meeting to, well, I don't know if all the board did, I'm not positive, but to support the Jake break. I push that we go ahead and vote for a complete parking ban on Bartlett. We have worked with the businesses up on Bartlett to have them improve their signage, potentially improve their GPS system so that drivers are steered another direction.
Thank you.
So anyway, in closing, I will continue to listen and collaborate with all residents on issues and concerns. I will, as always, attend every single meeting. I do my homework, and I work with integrity and understanding, realizing that we need to have a balance between the improvement and maintenance of town services while realizing the need to keep taxes reasonable. Give credit where credit is due. I thank people all the time. In fact, people make fun of me for that. Fran having been one of them years ago in the Board of Selectmen.
So,
But
thank you.
that's very important to me.
Thank
Yes.
you. Mitch?
Thank you very much, and I would appreciate your vote on May 10th. Thank you very much.
I want to start by thanking you, Fran, for moderating tonight's debate.
Thank you, Mitch.
The last time that the town had an in-person candidates event was 3 years ago. I was the moderator, standing where you are. It's a very different feeling being in either position.
Yes.
I think, honestly, I like this one better than that one. That's hard.
I've been in both myself.
My name is Mitch Cohen. As is mentioned, I have the experience of seeing how a lot of other towns, not just one other town where I used to live, because I'm a government nerd, I'll take that label. I've been to Board of Selectmen meetings and a lot of other committees in a lot of towns. I've watched a lot of them through because of COVID. They're all online now, which is fun. My wife knows how much I like that stuff. And I work hard. And I will work hard. I love local government. I love the town of Northborough. I really, really hope that you'll select me and vote for me on May 10th. We have a lot to do, and we really need to work harder and harder and harder every day, and I'll do that for the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom, wrapping it up.
Thank you. I hope you will vote for me on May 10th. This is Thomas Dalton. I'm pro-green, pro-farm. I think that we need to restore the faith in humanity and bring our farms back strong. It's sad to see Governor Baker and Janet no longer running for election. I think our country needs some change, and I think it should begin here in Northborough. And I think that we need to take care of our disabled, our elderly, and people in general. And I think a lot was left out when the pandemic hit. And I think that we should just bring things back and help people. So if you vote for me, I'll be your candidate to do so.
Thank you. Okay, so we are just running a little over, but I did want to ask our town moderator, Fred George, just to help me close out this evening with some thoughts on the value of civic engagement in local government. But again, I want to thank all the candidates and their supporters for attending, the Northborough Cable TV staff for their time, and the Legion for lending us this space. But I want to give a round of applause to this group while Fred comes on up here. Thank you, Fred.
I think the need to say dearly beloved. I promise I won't take long. I just wanted to really remind everyone about what I said earlier this evening. The town meeting process in Northborough has been a very, very rich one. And I say that with all experience, all the knowledge and experience I have from when I was president of the Massachusetts Moderators Association. I've had a chance to go around to most of the municipalities in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and see how it operates. Sometimes we think we have a free-for-all. I can tell you, we don't. Some towns do. And so it's an experience that I think everyone should enjoy. It is, there's a lot of formality. No, there isn't. I understand the moderator is an outstanding individual and very forthright and forgiving. As I was listening to other people speak this evening, I came to the conclusion that running a municipality is a year-round process. But then we have the political season, when the citizens come out and vote, and the crocuses come out, and the grass turns green, and everyone's really excited about what's going on. And then July and August come, and things slow down again. And I've been asked many times after town meeting, what did they decide? Why did they vote that way? Don't be that person. Participate. It's 1 or 2 nights, maybe 3 at the most, a year, that makes a significant impact on what your life in this community is all about. As far as elections go, we should not be excited if we have a 6 or 8% turnout. We should be very disappointed. The election is making decisions that will impact this community for years to come. So please, get out and vote. Tell your friends to vote. Tell your friends' friends to vote. It's important, not only for you, but for the entire community. The people that were brave enough to come up and sit at this table this evening, and I heard some of these people say it was a first-time experience, and they are still shaking in their shoes. But we need to be thankful that individuals are willing to do that, in the fact that we have some competition on the ballot, and that puts it in the hands of the voters to be able to make a decision as to what's going on. I'm a strong, strong advocate of being involved in our community, and as was said earlier this evening, it's our responsibility, I think it was Joan Frank that said that, it's our responsibility to do what we can do to make things better. I transcribed it a bit. In closing, I want to thank each and every one of you for politely being here. Tell your friends about this, they can watch it on TV. I want to thank Northborough's Vision for having the vision to be able to sponsor this and put it together for us. And I look forward to a record-setting voter turnout for our election. Thank you very much.
Thank you.